from Swall Hebrew Day School, and I'm here at Coastal Roots Farm to talk to you about a very special Jewish holiday that's coming up soon. It's called Shavuot. Does anybody know what Shavuot means? In Hebrew, Shavuot means weeks. Shavua is 1 week and Shavuot is many weeks. The reason that we celebrate Shavuot at this time of year, we need to count 7 weeks from the second day of Pesach until Shavuot. For all my math whizzes out there, do you know how many days are in 7 weeks? That's right, 7 times 7 is 49. So we count the Omer for 49 days. Now, the agricultural significance of this very special holiday is the Omer is the counting of until the harvest of the first wheat in Israel. So the wheat is grown from the second day of Pesach until 49 days when the wheat can be harvested. Okay, so the agricultural component of Shavuot, we talked about counting the Omer until we harvest the wheat, but there's another part that goes along with it, and this is called Bikurim. It means first fruits, and this is another agricultural aspect to the holiday of Shavuot. If you haven't watched Sharon's video on Facebook about the Bikurim that she posted yesterday, you can learn more about this part of Shavuot by watching her video also. And it means that in ancient Israel, there was a big temple, and people would go and bring the first fruits of their harvest into the temple and offer it to God. So the next part of Shavuot that I want to talk to you about is a religious aspect. And if you remember the story of Pesach, which was the last Jewish holiday that we celebrated, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, and God freed them from slavery, and He took them out of Egypt. And when He took them from Egypt, they needed to travel a long distance before they reached the land that He promised to give them. And the area that they had to travel through was desert, and it was a very long journey. But they finally reached a place where God promised to give them His commandments. And the place was called Har Sinai. Har is mountain in Hebrew. And a very fun story about Har Sinai is that when God decided to talk to His people, He needed to choose a mountain. And it was a little bit challenging because there were very grand mountains in this desert and along the way into the promised land. And the mountain that He chose was not the biggest, strongest mountain. It wasn't the most fertile mountain. It wasn't even the mountain that the people used to worship their own gods. It was the smallest and the most humble mountain because He wanted to be close to His people down on earth. And the name of that mountain is Har Sinai. So we celebrate the time when God spoke to His people in the desert from Har Sinai on Shavuot, and He gave the Torah to His people for the first time. Just like with most other holidays, there are traditions that we do to celebrate these holidays. And on Shavuot, one of the traditions that we have is to eat dairy foods. And there are a lot of reasons, different reasons, why people eat dairy foods on Shavuot. But the one that we're going to focus on comes from the Torah, and it is that God told His people that He would take them to the land of milk and honey. Does anybody know where milk comes from? That's right, it comes from cows or goats. And here at Coastal Roots Farm, we don't have any dairy animals. We have chickens, but chickens don't give us milk or yogurt, ice cream, cheese. So we're going to talk about the second part of that promise from God. The land of milk and honey. Does anybody know where honey comes from? That's right, it comes from bees. And here at Coastal Roots Farm, we have lots of bees. So I am going to turn you over to Sharon, who is going to talk to you about the bees and pollination and where honey comes from.
Hi there, I am Sharon Oren, the education manager here at Coastal Roots Farm. Thank you so much, Ashley, for explaining to us the meaning of Shavuot and how it relates to farming and to agriculture. So I'm going to tell you all about where honey comes from. Now, do you guys know who makes honey? Bees, that's right. Bees are helping us and make honey. And bees are also important, not just because they're making honey, but because they have a really important job here on the farm. And I'm going to explain to you not only how they make the honey and the process of it, but also how they help the flowers in creating new flowers. So the way it works, a bee, which is a type of pollinator, will go from one flower to the next flower, searching for something super sweet to eat. Can you guess what that sweet thing is? Do you already know? Nectar, that's right. It wants to eat the nectar. So you see how beautiful that flower is? It's purple and it's beautiful. The bee wants to go to it. It's attracted to the color. And then while it's there, it's sucking up the nectar, and without even knowing it, pollen, which is stuck to the top of small tubes called anthers, pollen you can see right here, gets stuck to their body. And then when they go to another flower, they're looking for some more nectar to make that honey. And the pollen that they took from the first flower, sometimes gets stuck to this part right here called stigma. And when it gets stuck to the stigma, it comes off the bee's body, it travels down this tube into the ovary, and that is where a new fruit is made. And you see right here, these little pockets, they're called ovules. That's where the new seeds are made. It is such a miraculous journey for this pollen, and it's so amazing how new seeds and fruit are created. And really, without the help of bees, we wouldn't be able to have new fruits and new flowers here on the farm. They are so important for farmers and for farming and for any gardens that people have. And you know, bees aren't the only pollinators that exist. Butterflies are pollinators, hummingbirds, ladybugs. There are so many different kinds of pollinators. But what's special about the bees is that they make the honey, and that is so delicious, and that is part of Shavuot that we celebrate.
Wow, Sharon, thanks for teaching us so much about bees and how honey is made. Now we're going to move on to another tradition on Shavuot, and that is flowers. It's funny how the honey and the bees are connected to the next tradition, and it is customary on Shavuot to decorate your synagogue or your home with flowers, not only because the time of year that we celebrate Shavuot, the world is covered with flowers, but also there's a tradition based on stories from rabbis in the past that when Hashem, God, gave the Torah to the Jewish people on Har Sinai, that a miracle occurred, and the land, which was in the desert, and does anybody know what the desert is like? Are there plants in the desert? No, it's dry and there are a lot of rocks and sand. But when God gave the Torah on Har Sinai, the miracle that happened was that the land around Har Sinai became fertile with plants and flowers growing on it. So that's why there's a tradition to decorate with flowers on Shavuot to celebrate the time of year and also the miracle that occurred on Har Sinai when we received the Torah for the first time. So we're going to do a fun activity using flowers, and Sharon is going to teach you how to go outside and find flowers that you're going to pick, and she's going to show you how to do it safely so that you don't harm the flowers, and also that you choose the right types of flowers, okay? I'll see you once you get your flowers, and we're going to have fun doing some nature art, okay?
Thank you, Ashley. So this activity that we're going to be doing is called either flower hammering or flower printing. But no matter what it's called, the idea is to take a flower and to transfer the pigment, that's the color, of the flower onto either fabric or a piece of paper, and to have that beautiful color on there for your art. So I'm going to show you how to harvest the flower, just like Ashley said. And because we're transferring the color, we want the flower to be as fresh as possible, not to be dried out. So as I'm touching some of these, they're definitely dry. This one's, I can feel it's crunchy. Oh, but this one feels nice and fresh. And so watch how I take my pincher fingers, and instead of pulling up the whole plant, right, that would not be good for the plant, I'm just going to pinch from the bottom of the flower. If you want a little bit more stem, this is a lavender. That's great. You can get a little bit more stems. Let's find another nice fresh one. Here we go. That's a great one. And watch, I can do the same thing down here. I have my pincher fingers, pinch, and it just comes right off. And so my flower is intact. My plant is still in the ground and no harm has been done. Let me show you another one right here. On this side, this is a beautiful flower and it's nice and dark. Remember, you want a dark one. So when you go out in your neighborhood or your backyard or front yard, you're looking for that flower that's super dark. That'll give you better results. Again, my pincher fingers, I'm gonna pinch here at the end. Oh, that was so simple. Look how pretty this is. I love this color. All right, let's go to the table. We're gonna watch Ashley do this activity so you can follow along.
Okay, do you have all of your supplies? Are you ready to get started? I'm ready. So the first thing you need to do is to arrange your blossoms, your flowers. You can also use leaves. I brought this thing from the ground. It's just a type of grass. And you just need to arrange your blossoms and your flowers around on your paper. You want to tape them down a little bit so that they don't move. Just the edges is fine. And I'm gonna tape the stem up so that it doesn't really get in my way here. And as you're arranging your flowers, it's important that you place them face down. So I'm going to put this one, this yellow calendula, down, face down here. And you want it to be as flat as possible. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of tape to hold the petals down in place. And I'm going to take this stem. This is called the, wait, let's see if I can remember. I don't remember what this part of the flower is called. But I'm gonna pull it off so that I can put it down flat with tape. And this will hold it in place a little bit more. This one I just learned is called a snapdragon, and it has a very dark color, so hopefully it's going to transfer nicely onto the paper. And I'm just going to open it up and lay it down as flat as possible with the tape. Okay, now that you have your flowers and your leaves arranged on top of your paper or your fabric, the next step is to cover them with the parchment paper. And you see, even though it's covered, you can still see the flowers underneath. And that's important because the next thing you need to do is take your hammer or your rock and start hammering the petals. And you just want to tap them lightly. Check this one and see how it works before we move on to the others. Some flowers will transfer more pigment than others. And this one, you can see, you just want to remove the petals. And now you have a beautiful flower pigment print on your paper.
Gorgeous.
Okay, I'm gonna try another flower, and this time I'm gonna use a rock. because sometimes you may not have a hammer at your house, or maybe your dad has a hammer or your mom has a hammer and they don't really want you to use it because it can be a little bit dangerous if you don't know how to use it the right way. But we can all find a rock somewhere, and just use your rock the same way. Hammer all the way around the petals. I've also done this before. You can just slide it across. And let's see how this one turns out. Now we just need to brush away. Oh, see, I'm spreading the color a little bit. But do you see the blue color from the flower and a little bit of the green from the stems and the leaves? Okay, I'm gonna move back to using the hammer this time, and we're gonna do this big leaf that I picked from the tree, and we'll see what color transfers onto the paper. Okay, so now that you have your prints on your fabric or on your paper, I just wanted to tell you, if you're going to use fabric, you can use a regular t-shirt, any type of white fabric that you want, but if you wash it, the colors are going to wash away. But you can pre-treat your fabric using vinegar. Just soak the fabric in vinegar for about 30 minutes, a mixture of vinegar and water, and then wash it, rinse it really well, let it dry before you start, and that will allow the colors, the pigment from the petals to stay longer on your fabric without washing away or fading. The next thing we're gonna do is, as you can see, the prints came out, but they're not so defined. You can make them a little bit more defined with more hammering, but what I like to do is to create a picture, an art piece with this method of hammering and printing with flowers. I'm just going to use markers, and I'm going to just outline my prints here. And at a stem, you can trace the veins of the leaves if you want, or you can just use the natural lines that were already there. For my flowers, I'm just gonna outline them a little bit here, this one, to show the petals. You can do the entire petal like this, or just the outline, it's up to you. And then I'm just gonna add some stems and leaves. This little, I think it's some sort of clover that I picked from the ground. And there we go. Nature art.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming here and for teaching us about Shavuot and showing us this amazing art activity. It was super fun to have you on the farm.
Thank you, Sharon. It's always a pleasure to be here on the farm, and I can't wait to come back again soon and to see all of you out visiting the farm. Enjoy, and Chag Sameach. Have a wonderful, beautiful Shavuot.
Happy Shavuot.